Dear friends, imagine standing in a garden that still bleeds in memory. A warm April afternoon, a quiet garden in Amritsar. Men, women, little children, some sitting, some standing, some have come here to pray, some to speak, most just to listen. There are no slogans, no violence, just silence and hope. And then a sound cuts through the air. That's gunfire. People scream, mothers shield their children. Some run towards the wall, others fall where they stand. The only gate is blocked. There's nowhere to go. For 10 long minutes, bullets rain like a storm of death. And in that garden, thousands of hopes, dreams and lives are buried under blood. This is not just a story. This is our pain. This is Jallianwala Bagh. And it must never be forgotten. To understand what happened that day, we must go back in time. The year was 1919. India was under British rule and people were growing restless. World War I had just ended. Thousands of Indian soldiers had fought and died for the British Empire, hoping their sacrifice would be rewarded with justice and freedom. But instead of gratitude, the British gave India something else. The Rowlatt Act. This law allowed the government to arrest anyone, anytime, without a trial, based purely on suspicion. This was like pouring fuel on burning fire. In Punjab, the anger was growing faster than anywhere else. And in Amritsar, peaceful protests had already begun. It didn't take long for things to escalate. Two respected leaders, Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal, were peacefully protesting against the Rowlatt Act. But on April 10, 1919, they were arrested and secretly taken away by the British. This sparked massive outrage. Most were still non-violent. Shops closed. The city fell silent. But the silence carried anger. To control the situation, Brigadier General Reginald Dyer was brought to Amritsar. His mindset was clear. No mercy, no negotiation. He believed discipline had to be taught through fear. It was April 13, 1919, the day of Baisakhi, a festival celebrated with color, prayer and joy. Thousands of villagers had come to Amritsar, some to visit the Golden Temple, others for the fair, unaware of the rising tensions in the city. But that afternoon, many gathered at Jallianwala Bagh, a public garden surrounded by high walls, to protest peacefully against the arrest of two national leaders. By evening, the crowd had grown to nearly 20,000 people, men, women, even children, sitting quietly, hoping to be heard. There was one main entrance, no big exits, no warning. People were sitting peacefully, listening to speeches and discussions. At 4:30 p.m., General Dyer entered the garden with 50 soldiers. Without warning, without asking the crowd to leave, he ordered his men to fire. 1,650 rounds of bullets were fired. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The garden had one narrow entrance, around 4 to 5 feet wide, and British soldiers stood blocking it with rifles. The other three sides were surrounded by high walls with no proper exits. This made the space a death trap. As the bullets rained down, people screamed and scrambled to escape. Some tried to climb the high walls, but people were shot as they tried to climb the walls. Mothers clutched their children. Young boys cried for their fathers. Some shouted prayers, Others just fell without a word. There was a well inside the garden. Many jumped into the well to escape the bullet, thinking it could save them. But those who jumped into the well were either shot while jumping or died by drowning or suffocation. That well became their grave. The soldiers kept firing until they ran out of ammunition. In just 10 minutes, the garden of Jallianwala Bagh turned into a silent scream. The ground was soaked in blood. Bodies lay one over the other. A few lay still on the ground, pretending to be dead, waiting for the firing to stop. Some were hit and survived, only to live the rest of their lives carrying the pain in body and in memory. The British officially claimed 379 people died. Indian estimates said over 1,000 were killed and more than 1,200 were injured. As I mentioned earlier, Brigadier General Reginald Dyer was brought into Amritsar following the unrest after the arrest of Indian leaders. He believed he had done something great by opening fire at Jallianwala Bagh. He had saved British rule by crushing rebellion. He didn't see the crowd as peaceful people. He saw them as a threat, one that needed to be crushed. After ordering his men to fire, he felt no guilt, no regret. In fact, when questioned later, he said calmly, "I thought it's my duty to fire on them. It was a necessary measure." In Britain, some hailed him as a hero, a man who had protected the empire. But in India, he became a symbol of cruelty, arrogance, and cold-blooded power. A name forever remembered with pain. The news of the massacre spread like wildfire. India was in shock. People who had trusted the British lost their trust forever. Rabindranath Tagore, one of India's greatest poets, was heartbroken when he heard about the massacre. The British had once given him a special title called knighthood to honor him. But after Jallianwala Bagh, he didn't want it anymore. He wrote a letter saying, "At the time like this, a reward from the British doesn't feel like an honor. It feels like a shame." So he gave it back to show that he stood with the people, not with the rulers. Across the country, there was silence, followed by a storm. Thousands marched. Students boycotted British schools. Indian lawyers gave up their titles. This was no longer just protest. It was the beginning of a new fire, a united voice that demanded freedom. In Britain, people reacted in different ways. Some leaders were shocked. They said General Dyer's action was wrong and inhuman. But surprisingly, many ordinary British people supported him. They even collected money and sent it to Dyer to thank him for what he had done. Later, the British government set up a group called the Hunter Commission. It was formed to investigate the massacre. The commission said that Dyer was wrong, but he was only rewarded from duty, but never jailed. For many Indians, this was an insult added to injury. The Jallianwala Bagh Massacre was no longer just a moment in history. It became a wound in India's soul, one that awakened millions. It made freedom not just a dream, but a necessity. Today, Jallianwala Bagh stands as a memorial. The bullet marks are still there on the walls. The well where people jumped still remains. And the silence in that garden speaks louder than any book or speech. It reminds us what we lost, but also what we became. A nation that refused to be silent again. Jallianwala Bagh is not just a place in history. It's where thousands came with hope and never returned home. This story is not about anger. It's about remembering what freedom truly costs. If this moved you, let's live on it by sharing it, speaking about it, and never forgetting it. I hope you find these stories inspiring. Stay tuned for more such powerful stories. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Until my next video, stay curious and keep reading. Signing off, Page Smiley. See you next time.